Hello and welcome. My name is Hollis Bailey. I am so excited to be your guide throughout this mini course. It's all devoted to using Feng Shui as a metaphor to reorganize and enhance the inner sanctuary of your consciousness. So I'm going to be leading you on a 30-day journey of essentially decluttering, reorganizing, dusting off, and infusing with so much love and acceptance and compassion some of what I consider to be the most important rooms of your inner being or your consciousness. The purpose of this course is to help you remember and experience more of your innate self-worth so that you can then go live a more joyful life and have more freedom. Before we get into the overview of this course, I want to quickly introduce myself by sharing a bit of my story with you so that you can understand what inspired me to write a course about self-worth and living a life of inner freedom in the first place. So my story of learning to doubt myself, and look to others for approval and essentially forget about my divine self-worth and my inner power and my sovereignty, it really began as a child. I was the black sheep of my family, and even though my family did the best they could, they showed me love really in the best way they knew how, I never felt truly understood. So I spent many years since the time I was a child, trying to get people's approval, while at the same time feeling really confused about the voice inside that was telling me to trust myself and go my own way. So this dissonance led me to living from a place of fear, and it led me to become really ashamed of who I was inside, and it led me to become depressed and anxious, and eventually the emotional stress led me to manifesting physical symptoms. It started with lethargy, I had painful periods, I had digestive problems, I remember chronic sinus infections, and eventually in my 20s I was actually losing my visions in these bouts of stress. And eventually in my 30s, I developed a pituitary tumor. So it's interesting how our higher selves always lead us back home, even when we feel so lost and lonely and like we've done everything wrong. It was about 15 years of attempting to fix myself by turning to Western doctors for the answer. And each time I was prescribed another pill for every new symptom. And I eventually, finally began to realize that these symptoms were a result of something much deeper, internal, that was craving to be seen and to be held and to be healed. I also had my own years of self-medicating, only to find myself deeper in the shame and the guilt, and really had gotten myself into a place by the time I was in my late 20s that I thought that nobody, not even myself, could heal what was wrong with me. And looking back, I can see how these years of really looking to someone else or something else to fix me was pointing me in the direction of revealing the key to uncover those wounds of self-worth. I also think it's important to share that looking back into my journey, I always had that voice inside. It was my heart telling me that these surface level fixes were not going to heal me. I never felt good about taking the medication. I never felt good about self-medicating. But like many people who learn early on to look to others for approval, it took me a little while and all these experiences to finally surrender to that inner voice. A big turning point for me was at 32 years old when I discovered I had a pituitary tumor. That was 6 years ago. I quickly did what I was told to do by the system and made an appointment with a pituitary specialist. And in that single consult with this world-renowned pituitary specialist, she told me that I would need to start medication immediately, that they would likely need to remove the tumor surgically in just a few months if the medication didn't work. And she also made these matter-of-fact statements like, unless you do this, you will never be able to have children. Unless you do this, your hormones will never be right. Unless you do this, your moods will never stabilize. And this was truly, I'll never forget it. This was a moment of true empowerment. It was the first time I chose to listen to that inner voice. And it would completely change the trajectory of my life. forever for the last 6 years. So as I was sitting in this specialist office, everything in my body was telling me to get up and walk out. And it was, like I said, a true moment of empowerment for me, and what solidified my connection to source energy, God, whatever you want to call it, and what began for me a path of taking my health first in my body, and then my emotional health and my own healing into my own hands. I walked out of that office and never turned back to the system for any more diagnosis or recommendations in regards to my physical health, my emotional health, and my spiritual health. As I was driving home that day, after leaving that consultation, I can still, when I think back on it, I can still remember how different I felt. I felt the recognition in my body because I had listened to my heart. And I had literally no fear in me, no doubts that I had made the right decision for myself, despite the seemingly grave nature of the situation. So over these last 6 years, I have chosen to follow that intuition. I never went back on listening to other people for advice in regards to my health. No matter how impossible it seemed or how crazy it sounded to myself, I always continue to listen to my heart, because my heart and intuition led me to finally leaving things like my high-paying job that was sucking the life out of me. I went on to become a nutritionist, and I studied nutrition as a part of my own healing practice, and then started sharing it with others. I also followed my heart's calling to move to Mexico, which is where I live today. It was on a whim, but I wanted to surf in warm waters as much as I wanted, and I just up and left. Something, again, that I'd had in my head for about 10 years that I wanted to do. Moving to Mexico and being on this healing land opened my heart to following the medicine woman path. Again, this path that I had always felt a calling to do and always doubted myself. I also became pregnant, which I was told by the system I would never be able to have children. And I gave birth to a beautiful, healthy, and super happy baby girl in June of 2019. Oh, it makes me emotional thinking about it. And here I am in 2021, ready to share my journey with you about how you too can create incredible transformations in your life in regards to your own happiness and your own freedom and your own purpose by learning how to listen to your heart again. This is a course to help you remember your innate self-worth. You will feel clear and empowered by doing the action steps each day. You are going to learn how to trust yourself and how to listen to that intuition versus other people's for the answer. You're going to learn how to live with your heart and not be strung around by your mind and the conditioning that you have learned, which is often just stories about what other people or what society tells you is the right way. To get to the most out of this course, I recommend that you, right now, today, set a time for yourself each day to listen to the videos and to actually do the activities so that you can integrate the lessons for each day. So it's moving from the mind to the heart. So take note of the activities and teachings that feel most important to you, that had the most impact on you, and you can always go back to them once the course ends to continue on this empowering path of your consciousness evolution, reclaiming your self-worth. Okay, so that's my story. Let's get into the structure of an overview of this course so you can know basically what to look forward to over the next 30 days together. Now, I'm using Feng Shui and actual rooms in a house as a fun metaphor, as a fun way to help guide you along this journey. But I have to tell you right off the bat, I'm not actually a Feng Shui expert. I'm a woman has a Cancerian who really loves her home and my actual living sanctuary. My sun sign's in Cancer, like I mentioned, and I just thought it would be a fun way to guide you through a healing journey of your inner consciousness using this metaphor of Feng Shui. It's really been my own personal journey of Feng Shuiing these particular rooms in my own consciousness that we're going to visit. And I can tell you with 100% confidence, because I've lived it over the last 6 years, that today I really feel comfortable in my own body. I absolutely love my life as a result of the inner work that I did on these particular areas of my own inner sanctuary. I wrote many of the lessons in this course specifically for people like me and you, for competitives who have a lot of drive and ambition, but who also deal with a lack in confidence and clarity on knowing how to listen to your inner guidance system. So, it's all a result of our conditioning and our beliefs, and it's just practice. So that being said, anyone who wants to improve their life by doing the inner work it takes to evolve consciously is going to get so much out of this course, and no doubt have a major boost in happiness, have a major boost in self-love and love for life and joy when you really can apply the course to your life and do the action steps suggested. Okay, so let me give you an overview of the rooms we will be decluttering and infusing with love and attention and acceptance throughout this course. So in the first week, we're going to be exploring the kitchen. The kitchen represents your heart space. The kitchen is truly the core of any home. It is where all the magic happens. It's where creativity takes place, often multiple times per day. It's where we come to fuel our own bodies, and it's also where we go to fuel, say, the minds and bodies and souls of friends and family. So the heart of almost every culture, if you think about it, is the food. And it's in the kitchen where people spend the majority of their time really creating and being open and connecting and nourishing themselves and their families and communities. So while life may be created in the bedroom, life is certainly lived in the kitchen. I don't know where that quote came from, but I just really love it. Much like the kitchen, the heart is the core of our being, both the physical heart and the energetic heart. For this course, we're going to be bringing awareness to more of the energetic heart space with a loving intention to really improve our relationship to it, improve our communication, improve our awareness around it. And even though many of us know mentally how important this sacred heart space is, it's not uncommon to be living day in and day out very disconnected from our hearts. So we're going to be spending this first full week diving into the infinite abyss of this sacred space and awakening her from within, and allowing ourselves the pleasure and the nourishment and even the humility of beginning to live a more heart-centered life. The second room we're going to be exploring in week 2 is the Playroom. So this room represents our inner child. This room, though it sounds like it's probably going to be fun and joyful, full of innocence and love, will for many likely be a challenging or somewhat foreign room to explore. It's also going to have fun elements, but this is the room least tended to by many busy people, even on a spiritual journey, if you're already on one. So we're going to be spending a full week in this room, becoming familiar with our inner child, learning to know in any given moment how he or she is doing, and actually inviting them to express themselves by giving them the time and the space to be seen and heard by our adult selves. Now, if this is your first time doing inner child work, this might sound a little silly, but I promise you, this is going to be one of the most important inner work pieces that anyone can do in their lifetime, especially in the beginning of a spiritual journey. And, to repair the relationship with our inner child and is so important because the wounds and the traumas and the dramas of our childhood are usually what are responsible for creating the majority of our issues moving on, as we move on through life. They create our limiting beliefs and what is preventing us from awakening fully because of the conditioning we learned when we were young. So this week may be the most challenging, but it's also going to be incredibly rewarding as we have a regular old adventure with your inner child. So we're going to explore this relationship with patience, do things like throw fits, eat ice cream and chocolate if that's what your inner child wants to do. Allow them to essentially redecorate this space in your consciousness so that they have a safe and supportive space to come to with your adult self, and so that they can come out and play more often and explore and be seen and heard. so that they can really safely express themselves from here on out as needed. So the third room we're going to be exploring in the third week of this course is the master bedroom. And this room represents our intimate relationship with ourselves. The bedroom is where we can truly create deep intimacy with ourselves and with our own hearts. So we're going to leave our partners out of this course for the simple purposes of really focusing on you. This is a course about you and improving the relationship with yourself. The bedroom, my actual bedroom in my home, is truly my most sacred sanctuary where I can go to relax and rejuvenate and revive myself with sleep and meditation, with baths, with journaling, with music. It's private, and it should be a safe space to explore the art of truly tending to yourself in ways that fill your cup. Self-care is not a luxury these days. Self-care is a necessary part of life if you plan on integrating any of the inner work that you're doing. So plan on taking time for yourself this week, especially, plan on taking time to pamper your body and pamper your mind and your soul and really explore this intimacy with yourself. It may not always be comfortable, but learning how to be with ourselves, allowing our emotions to express and our thoughts to flow without judgment, it really is going to reveal and heal so much of what keeps us in our suffering. And that's often that's often why we ignore our self-care. So the fourth and final room we'll be exploring is the living room. And this room represents our relationship to our environments and other people in our lives. If you think of a living room in a house, it's the gathering space of the home. It's a space to relax and enjoy ourselves, as well as a space to enjoy our loved ones when we feel like connecting with other people. So in the last week of the course, we're going to do a mini assessment of our relationships and how we are relating to others. We will take a look at what the relationships in our lives are helping us to see about ourselves, so claiming radical responsibility. And it's going to show you how you can improve your authentic connection and communication with yourself and others. Like I said, over the years, tending to these 4 rooms in my journey has created a sense of harmony and inner peace and balance that has allowed me to feel truly whole and complete for the first time in my life. And that's no matter what's happening on the outside, I can always turn inward and really regain that sense of balance and peace. I can turn inward and, check in with my self-care and check in with how I'm communicating with others and really feel grounded in this life. So what can you expect from this course? Well, number 1, you can expect to gain a true sense of self-confidence and self-worth, which for competitives, that typically looks like not feeling as you need to produce and overdo and overachieve to prove your worth to the world. When you apply the action steps I'm going to share with you throughout the course, you will really start to feel the shift in your perception and eventually begin to experience, or like I love the word, remember, your innate self-worth, and you'll be able to integrate it into your entire being. So the second thing is expect to feel happier, expect to feel more energized, expect to feel less overwhelmed as you begin to learn the tools to true happiness, and that comes from within. This happens when you connect with your heart more regularly. It happens when you tend to your inner child when they need attention. It happens when you allow your emotions to be experienced and expressed, and learning how to identify these limiting beliefs and write a new, more expansive story for yourself that minimizes the self-sabotage or drama is going to create more freedom in your life. So the third thing that you can expect is to be able to see the beauty and the lessons of all of the situations in your life and the relationships in your life, and how every situation and every person in your life, no matter how incredible or how frustrating they are to you, are your best teachers, and that everything that you're manifesting in your life is absolutely for a reason. The tools I'm going to share with you in this course as we go through each room are really timeless practices. So it's not like you do them once and you're done. You can always go back to them. So come back to them as much as you need to in order to keep the dust from accumulating, right? This is not at all about creating a perfect masterpiece. It's more about learning how to tend and maintain a harmonious inner environment so that you can continue beyond this course to evolve and grow, and can do that with a little more grace, a little less drama, a little less trauma, and really step into and embody this multidimensional, magical experience of life. You know, using our bodies as the vehicles to lead us through this planet Earth experience, using our hearts as the guide. I think the Feng Shui metaphor is rather clever and cute for leading anyone, regardless of where you are on your spiritual path, to inspire a good physical and emotional and spiritual tuning up or purification. So we're almost done for the day, but before we go into the meditation, I want to quickly share a little on the art of Feng Shui in a more of a definition style, so you can see why I chose to work with this theme, and also so you can get a clear picture of where we're headed over the next 30 days. So a little about Feng Shui. I just took these definitions off the internet, but I think they're fun to read. So Feng Shui is traditionally a Chinese practice or art of working with energy flow within a space. A loose definition can describe it as the art of determining the most propitious design and placement of a room and the objects within that room so that the maximum harmony and flow is achieved between the flow of qi or energy and of the environment and that of the user. This is all aimed at creating a space that increases our success ultimately and happiness, and creates a state of inner well-being and vibrant health. So I want you to keep this in mind as we go through these inner rooms, looking at how we can approach the cleaning and the tidying up and the rearranging of our energy, essentially, of our consciousness, thoughts and belief systems, emotions, life experiences that have made an impact on us, and essentially create a more harmonious setup inside of ourselves, inside of our consciousness. And this will indeed have a positive impact on your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your happiness, and your zest for life. One more thing I want to include before we get into the first room today is that the practice of Feng Shui is believed to bring good fortune. All of us want more good fortune in our lives. Magic. And it's 100% absolutely true, because when we tend to ourselves in the ways which I'm going to share with you throughout this course, when we turn inside and nurture ourselves with more awareness and a willingness to be with whatever we may find there, giving it love and attention and acceptance. And oftentimes we're going to be encountering these abandoned spaces. It's simply a universal law that we will get a positive result of some kind from our loving actions towards ourselves. More good fortune. So it's so nice to meet you. I am really, really excited to begin our journey together. You can now turn to the meditation for day 1, listen to that meditation, and I will see you tomorrow for day 2 to begin our exploration of the kitchen or of the heart space.